What's going on, guys? Hello everyone, Lytro Storm here, and today I am bringing us back to What If Goku Never Hit His Head with Part 3. Last time I told you about how Kakarot would defeat King Piccolo in this timeline. After that, all the Z Fighters trained on Kami's lookout, and Mr. Popo had actually found Piccolo Jr., and with Kami's help, the two managed to mostly purify him. Kakarot then won the 23rd Budokai, and since there was no evil threat, there was another 3 years later. Our Raditz saga actually ended rather abruptly, since he noted Kakarot's plan and yearning to know about his heritage. He used that to his advantage, and now will be training alongside our heroes, who have no idea that Vegeta and Nappa will arrive in just a year. So now that we've gotten the recap out of the way, be sure to like the video if you end up enjoying it, and also subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Also, if you haven't seen the first two parts, it's a little bit late because I kind of just spoiled the second part, but you can still go back, check out the two parts. The playlist will be linked in the description and the comments section. As always, be sure to join my Discord and follow me on Twitter. Links in the description. So now, Raditz has agreed to train on Earth, but everyone is skeptical, even Kakarot himself. However, he lets Raditz's smooth talk inflate his need to understand his origins. So Kakarot wants Raditz to train with them, and so he takes him back to Kami's lookout. Now right off the bat, Kami, Piccolo, and Popo all sense that this guy is bad news, and basically get Kakarot away for a bit to tell him that. Kakarot would say that he can sense it too, but he has to try and dispel that evil. He is his brother and the closest thing to his heritage that he has, so he has to give him a chance. Kami understands this, but is still suspicious. This leads to him calling the rest of the Z Fighters to come join in on the training. Since they are also suspicious, he enlists them to come train with them, so that if Raditz does try anything, or worse if he gets Kakarot on his side, they'll be ready. And so for the next year, Kakarot, Raditz, Kami, Piccolo, Tenshinhan, Chaozu, Krillin, and Yamcha all trained together. Raditz would be a sore loser during the earlier training, and he would actually aim a blast at Piccolo, who had defeated him. He begins to fire the blast, but realizes that everyone was watching, and so he dissipates the blast. He gets up, shrugging it off, but everyone had noted this heavily. Another part of Raditz's training would be Kakarot teaching him how to better utilize his ki. He teaches him how to sense ki, suppress his ki, raises power through techniques, etc. On top of that, in their off time, Kakarot shows him the world. Haha, JoJo reference. Anyway, he teaches him about Earth culture and introduces him to his family. Raditz would ask if he planned to have any more children, and he would respond that he wanted a few more so that his parents could have a strong legacy. He also said that he wanted at least one to be a fighter, and Gohan doesn't really seem like the type. Raditz would say that was actually a smart idea and would have a genuine smile for once. He tells Kakarot that their father was a great fighter and one of the best lower-class warriors, and their mother was also a fighter, but eventually settled down. This would be one of the first times Raditz seemed genuinely happy, and caring about something besides his own strength. Meanwhile, the Z Fighters would be training intensely, trying their best to be ready in case the worst comes true. Remember that they have no idea about Vegeta and Nappa arriving, so they are specifically training, A, for themselves, and B, to prepare. Over this time, we would see more moments of Raditz and Kakarot bonding during training, with Kami specifically making everyone fight Raditz and Kakarot together from time to time. This would be to test their growth and see if they were enough to beat the two. However, with Kami and Piccolo being relative to the two Saiyans, and also having 4 more teammates, they managed to defeat the brothers. Unlike before though, Raditz had developed to keep his composure and not lash out at anyone. He accepts his loss, and everyone actually seems a bit at ease despite their former suspicion. Kakarot also smiles, seeing his brother change right before his eyes. He felt proud not only of Raditz, but of himself. Toward the end of their training, Kakarot would announce that he had surpassed Kami, and the two would battle it out to show it. Of course, the Saiyan prodigy would win, showing his growth since they had first met. Kami congratulates his student and shakes hands with him, obviously very proud. He also informs him that he had gained enough strength to remove the 2 wish restrictions, a while back during their training. If you don't remember, the two wish restrictions that they're going to be lifting are A, adding a new wish, and B, the one that you can't wish back people who died more than a year ago. This is so that way they can bring Bardock and Guine's souls to Earth, rather than just bringing them back to life and then making them die in space. Anyway, Kami now wants to celebrate his students' growth by wishing them back. Both Kakarot and Raditz are happy because of this, and Kami goes to grab the Dragon Balls when he stops. He stands still and turns around slowly, asking if anyone else could feel that. Of course, everyone can, and Raditz is now sweating, with a face showing a bit of guilt. Everyone charges off into the sky as the feeling comes to a head in two Saiyan pods crashing into the city. Luckily, our heroes make it to the city in time to stop any real damage. Vegeta looks toward Raditz and compliments his power level. It's above Nappa's. Kakarot asks if these are the two Saiyans he had told him about, and Raditz would say yes, with Piccolo asking why they're here. Vegeta responds, "Did he not tell you? He was the one who invited us." Everyone looks toward Raditz, angry with him. The Saiyan can barely speak, but Kakarot tells them all to move to a more remote area. They do so, and now Vegeta tells Raditz to come over there with him and Nappa. This is the moment of truth. Does he betray Vegeta or his brother? Raditz stands strong and walks to Vegeta's side. The prince compliments him once more and says that he made the right choice. Piccolo yells that he knew he would betray them, and everyone else joins in, criticizing him. The only one who doesn't is Kakarot, who remains silent, still in awe. He looks at his brother in both disbelief and disappointment. Vegeta asks Nappa to plant the Cybermen, but Raditz stops him. The Saiyan tells his superior that there was no point, as not all one of them was weaker than a Cyberman. Vegeta is quite pleased to hear that Raditz is already loyal once more, and asks how they stack up to Nappa. Raditz extends his arm, pointing to Chaozu, and says that he is the only one weaker than Nappa. This of course shocks the other Saiyan, who says that he must be wrong, but Vegeta says that it all makes sense based on their one-year training with Raditz. Well then, I guess we'll be planting the Cybermen after all, Vegeta says. Nappa plants them, and has them join him in combat against the four Earthlings. Vegeta looks over at the two Namekians, and says that he'll let the brothers sort out their family issues, flying away with Piccolo and Kami. This leaves only Raditz and Kakarot. The two stand and stare at each other, both knowing what they must do. Raditz tells Kakarot that he didn't mean to give them false hope. If he had just taken his first offer, they wouldn't have to hurt each other like this. His brother ignores what he says, and so he yells to respond and fires a blast. Kakarot blocks this and continues standing, winded a little bit. "You're not invincible, brother. No matter how much you think you can take, if you just stand there, you're done for." "I know," Kakarot responds. Raditz charges in for a punch, and his brother dodges. Another one. Dodge. A kick. A blast. Block. Dodge. It was clear that Kakarot didn't want to harm his own flesh and blood.
"I am a Christian man."
Raditz would continue to swing as the other two fights were going on. The Earthlings, by this point, are far stronger than the Cybermen, and only Chaozu is weaker than Nappa. So even despite their lower numbers, they are still able to win against Nappa easily, killing both him and the Cybermen. And before someone gets mad that I'm killing off Nappa, I genuinely don't see him surviving, since the Earthlings are all willing to kill just like in canon. And they've already seen the whole turning good thing isn't going to work due to Raditz, and Raditz actually had something going for him. He was Kakarot's brother, and Kakarot wanted to change him. Plus, I have Nappa survive in plenty of other what-ifs where it actually makes sense anyway, so I don't see the point in doing it again if it doesn't make sense. But now, flipping to the third fight, Kami and Piccolo are both duking it out with the Saiyan Prince. The two Namekians would both lose easily if they took him on one-on-one. But luckily, their strength is high enough to keep up together. The two are both fighting experts and have great teamwork, being fully in sync. However, that's not to say they're winning. The Prince is using his full power right off the bat, and since the two have to exert everything they have as well as work together to be able to stand against him, he's wearing them down slowly. Luckily though, Piccolo doesn't like being worn down and instead grows up, using his giant form. This allows for Kami to continue the fight while he uses larger attacks to mess Vegeta's guard up. Eventually, all of our Earthling friends jump in after beating Nappa and help in the fight, although only slightly. With their numbers and everyone switching shifts fighting Vegeta, they should be able to lower his stamina eventually. However, the Prince doesn't tire easily. Unlike Kakarot, who is losing his ability to block and dodge against Raditz. The gap between them isn't so large, and Raditz can tell his brother is overexerting himself. Kakarot's stamina is growing thinner, eventually taking the hits directly. By this point, Raditz has had his brother on the ropes, and is growing angrier as he attacks. "Why won't you fight me?" he screams, as if desperate to get any response. Kakarot says that he won't fight his brother, as he truly did care for him. "I never wanted us to bond. I simply sought power and you were the easiest way to obtain it." "Then kill me," Kakarot says. Raditz's face turns to shock. He charges up a Saturday crash and prepares to end his brother's life, but ultimately can't. He powers down the blast. "I betrayed you, threatened your home," he says as he lifts Kakarot by his gi. "Don't you want revenge?" "You can't do it, can you?" Kakarot responds. "You're feeling exactly what I feel. This is my revenge." Raditz begins breathing heavily through his nose, clearly fuming and confused. He drops Kakarot and lets out a breath, before turning away and flying off. But he was cut off by Vegeta, who stood directly in front of him. The Saiyan trips on his words, and Vegeta tells him that he needs him to join in the fight, as that's what a comrade would do. Especially one who totally didn't grow attached to anyone, right? Raditz stumbles, saying that he was right. Kakarot had taken a Senzu Bean by this point, and yelled for the rest of the Z-Fighters to handle Raditz, while he and Vegeta fought. The Prince agreed, and the two Saiyans switched opponents, though Chaozu and Tenshinhan joined Kakarot. With this, the Z-Fighters enacted exactly what they had planned. They had trained for Raditz's betrayal, and so this was their time to shine. Raditz doesn't actually prove to be much of a threat though, since Piccolo and Kami are both relative to him one-on-one and they're working together. Vegeta, however, was beating Kakarot, although not badly. Tenshinhan and Chaozu were both able to provide additional support until the Prince decided that he wanted a one-on-one for once. He knocked Kakarot aside before blasting Chaozu with enough force to completely atomize him in an instant. No goodbyes, just death. That was unexpected, and now Chaozu can't be revived. He charges in, but Vegeta simply slices him in half, both parts falling onto the ground below. Krillin and Yamcha flew to him, trying to give him a Senzu Bean, but Tenshinhan was content being with Chaozu in the afterlife. He closed all three of his eyes before dying. Krillin and Yamcha both had an outburst of anger, throwing a Spirit Ball and Destructo Disc at Vegeta. Vegeta thought he could dodge, but Kakarot also hit him with a Kamehameha Wave as well. The Destructo Disc had missed, but the others landed and dealt good damage. Vegeta was furious, no more playing around. He created a Power Ball and launched it into the sky. This turned both he and Raditz into Uzarus, and unfortunately due to Kami's training, Kakarot had previously removed his tail. The two Uzarus would now assault the Z-Fighters, leading to the demise of Yamcha. Luckily though, as Kakarot was being crushed by Vegeta both metaphorically and literally, Raditz had realized that he needed to help his brother one last time. He launches all the Z-Fighters back and punches Vegeta in the face, making him drop Kakarot. He would then land a few more blows before Vegeta caught his fist, kicking him through a mountain. Kami asked what they could do now, and Piccolo simply looked past the Uzarus and blasted the fake moon, destroying it. This led to both Saiyans reverting to their bases and carrying out their struggle. Piccolo then once again grew giant and stepped on them both multiple times. This didn't kill them, but the two were so weakened by this point that it was enough to end their fighting. He then went back to his normal form, Vegeta began to crawl into his pod, and Krillin, being the only one who hasn't totally wasted all their energy, tried to stop him. However, Vegeta, having not been as weak as in canon, simply blasted a hole in his heart. This led to Kami rushing to give him a Senzu Bean, as Vegeta escaped in his pod. As for Raditz, he and his brother exchanged looks before turning away and flying to where his pod had landed 1 year ago. Everyone else ate a Senzu Bean and recovered. However, they had just lost 3 lives, one of which they can't get back. But that's when Kami remembers his home world, and that they should have Dragon Balls. Maybe they can grant that wish instead. But that's where we're going to end this part because it's honestly gone on for a really long time. So, I hope you guys are enjoying the changes that this What If has made. This isn't really the typical Raditz turns good story, because I don't really want it to be that. But overall, I really like how the story's turning out so far. Let me know if you guys agree. And also suggest your own suggestions in the comments, because, you know, I always read them. But yeah, guys, just let me know what you think of this part. And I'm just going to end the video here. But as always, tell me if you liked this part. Tell me what you think will happen next. comment your requests for future videos, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.